There's a point after you've lived in enough places where belonging stops feeling straightforward. People can look at your life and think it looks amazing. Different countries, different cultures, travel, new experiences, and I get that. There are parts of this life I genuinely value. Like, I like living amongst the local people, learning the rhythm of a place through its supermarkets, transport, seasons, cafes, bureaucracy, and all the small everyday things that you never really get to understand whenever you're only just visiting somewhere. Living abroad has changed me deeply. I know that. It has widened my perspective and shaped me in ways I am so grateful for. And at the same time, it has also made home much harder to define. When I first moved abroad to Amsterdam way back in 2002, it felt like home almost immediately. I don't know whether that was because I was younger, or because it was my first big move, or because that stage of life allowed me to settle more easily. I just remember that it felt simple in a way that it doesn't necessarily now. Years later, moving feels different. By the time we moved to Frankfurt only 6 months ago, I already knew that arriving somewhere physically doesn't mean you've emotionally arrived. You can unpack your clothes, find the nearest and best supermarket, work out the transportation, the trains, the buses, the metros, the underground, discover new walking routes, and still feel as if some part of you is somewhere else. For me, that somewhere else is Salzburg. Frankfurt was easier physically than some previous moves. My Crohn's didn't flare up in the same way it has always done before, and I could go out walking almost immediately. That mattered, because in other moves my body had made the first few months, even up to 6 months, much smaller than I wanted them to be. When we moved to Salzburg, for example, my Crohn's came out of remission. And going out, it wasn't simple. It meant thinking about toilets, distances, unfamiliar streets, and whether I'd be able to get somewhere quickly enough if I needed to. I remember my husband once saying, "You should get out of the house more and explore." He meant well. I know he did. However, what sounded simple from the outside felt much heavier from inside my body. So physically, Frankfurt gave me more freedom. Emotionally, however, it was harder. I had left behind dear friends in Salzburg, real friendships, real connections, the kind that had become part of the shape of my life. Salzburg was also where we lost all 3 of our bunnies, Forrest, Olaf and Bobo. That tied me to the place in a way that went far beyond liking a city. It held love, grief, routine, memory, and an entire chapter of life. So I arrived in Frankfurt, and part of me was still there, back in Salzburg, walking new streets while emotionally attached to the old ones. I think that's something many women living abroad quietly understand. You don't just leave places behind, you carry them with you. Northern Ireland, Scotland, Amsterdam, Switzerland, Salzburg, Frankfurt. They don't sit neatly in the past. They hold versions of who you were, who you loved, who you lost, and how you changed. After a while, you can become adaptable and rootless at the same time. And that's the contradiction. I can live untethered more easily than some people might. I'm introverted, and I don't need a huge social circle immediately. I return first to my work, my routines, my inner world. There are parts of that which suit me. I like knowing I can adapt. I value the part of me that has been shaped by different cultures and different ways of living. Repeated rebuilding, however, still takes something out of you. It asks you to keep beginning again, to keep finding your place, to turn beloved places into memories, to accept that friendships may remain real while no longer belonging to your daily life. And somewhere in that, belonging becomes layered. You don't fully belong where you came from, your home country anymore, because you've changed too much for that. And you don't fully belong where you currently are, because you may not yet be there long enough for roots to form deeply. That's where spaces like one-to-one support and healing sessions can matter. Not because this life needs to be turned into a problem, rather because there are layers to it that often don't have anywhere to go. The grief of leaving, the tiredness of adapting, the quiet loneliness, the identity shifts. And sometimes there's also a need to reconnect with the version of you underneath all the moving. That's where something like the Future You activation creative visualization feels relevant, because life abroad can scatter your sense of self across places, friendships, languages, homes and losses. Living abroad can widen you and unsettle you at the same time. And perhaps that's the part many women carry. You can build a beautiful life in more than one place and still feel the weight of never fully belonging to any of them.